4 years since I wrote Millennium Gothic, and now the same scenes are painted in such utterly different colours. One of the reasons for wanting to make this video is to try and demystify and de-glamorise the way people seem to have latched on to Ash, because that is something I vastly regret and had no idea would happen, because that is not how my brain works. The thing with Millennium Gothic, it's not so much about the guy and who he was specifically, it's about how he made you feel and your personal attraction, and that's not going to transfer. Mid-40s dude, random dude, there's not really anything to be interested in there. Whew, dear Lord, prepare for a betrayal you will never see coming, nor ever quite get over. If you're young, female, and or autistic, I think you might need to hear this one. So hello, you wonderful citizen of cyberspace, and welcome to this Reddit-prompted story time. Part late-night response session to give you the cliff notes on why Ash and I parted ways for anyone who can't be arsed reading the book. And partly a my god, I was dumb when I was younger update for anyone who has read the book. Because according to a friend, all this has been the subject of the week on that peculiar little corner of Reddit that, for reasons I can never quite grasp, discusses me. And it really is eternally weird being discussed at all. Like a sneaky WhatsApp group chat that you've been accidentally invited into, so you're not in the room. But if you pop up and start existing in this space where people are talking about you, they're not talking to you, you're not really welcome. After all, gossip is always more delicious than a straight answered question. But anyway, like say, the subject of the week, so I'm told, for I do not enjoy reading this stuff myself, so I'm just going with my friend's summary. It's a regularly occurring question over there, this time with a twist of lime. Why did Ash and I part ways? What happened? And am I, as a consequence, lonely? So to get to the Ash thing first, it's in the book, Millennium Gothic, on Amazon, if you want to go deep into the full Technicolor blow-by-blow of the 16 years we knew each other and how it eventually went down. But this answer is the here and now edition. I'm not popping back into my time machine, and that means we're all going to have to suck on the lemon wedge acidic, significantly older, colder and more brutal modern viewpoint. Before we start, please always remember that there are multiple sides to every story, and every human is an unreliable narrator, and perspectives change over time, as you will see. If you've read the book, this is a bit of a different take on the whole thing. This is the story from my angle, right now, today, that and nothing more. My opinions may change with time, and I can't give you everyone's side of the story. I'm not in everyone's head. You know, when you're writing a fiction story, you can be in everyone's head and you can give a rounded picture, and I love that. But when you're only telling your life story, all you've got is your own take. So that just needs saying. Because in truth, Ash and my parting came down to a screamingly, depressingly obvious fork in the road. Like, come on. It's a simple bit of mathematics. We were opposite sex friends with a history of being more than that. And you and I both know there will be one very, very predictable person who is not going to like that. Or me, one little bit. If you're young, female, and or autistic, I think you might need to hear this one, in the hope that your life winds up at a less shitty destination. So with all the extra spicy, cynical nihilism of 4 more years since I first wrote it all down in Millennium Gothic, here it comes. There are 3 elements to our tale. 3 collision course souls, and 3 is always a very awkward number. Ash, me, and element 3. One will win, one will lose. One will end up too lost to see their own fucking compass points. I guess we'll start with the Ash and me groundwork. We were close, as I said, for round about 16 years in total. half my life by the time we parted ways, which means, inconveniently enough, that he is always there, twined like ivy into every second of the life history that has made me who I am. Like, it is impossible to go like a week without mentioning him in some way, because he is in all of my memories. And for 90% of our time together, we were just friends. It caused plenty of trouble with my boyfriends. Both the other partners who ever meant anything to me nearly ended it all with me because of Ash. And both times I walked away from their rage and their jealousy, not knowing if they would even be there when I got back, much as I cared about both of them, because Ash needed me and our friendship came first. I've always respected the basic history of my partners' lives. The fact that we all have exes, and some of them may still be a part of things. We're not 12, are we? Of course your partner has a past. It has never once crossed my mind that I, as someone's brand new sexual partner, should eclipse or be automatically more important than someone they've known for years. That is some mad crack to be smoking in my eyes, because trust, loyalty, and being put first, they are all things you earn in life, not things you get handed like a fucking welcome basket the second we've had our first shag. This may sound weird, but both of my parents spend Christmas Day, even now, with their respective ex-spouses, tangled in with their current spouses and everyone else, which was initially a do-it-for-the-kids decision, but it grew down through the decades into a whole way of living. My brother's wedding had his most serious ex as a welcome guest, along with at least one of her exes, and there was zero drama. Why on earth would there be? Jealousy is a numbskull, unproductive emotion that brings happiness to precisely no one. Ash seemed to get it. He fell into easy step with my family's mentality when he was perceived as a threat to my relationships, when he drove an almighty rift between me and Luke, followed by me and Matt. I phoned Ash in tears, no idea what to do, and Ash said, this being a direct quote, because the words imprinted themselves forever inside my brain. I guess so I could hoist them high 20 years later, like the glaring neon flag of empty promises they would turn out to be. Matt needs to learn that's just how you roll. With us, that is. That we were friends, that we came before, and that our friendship ran deep. Neither of us was going anywhere, ever. Bros before hoes, man. That's where Ash stood. But what I, in all my 4 years younger naivety, didn't clock is that it's where he stood while the standing was easy. While it was me taking the heat, fighting all those ghastly conflicts with my partners about him, and he didn't have to fight at all, just reap the rewards of our continued easy friendship. I assumed that all these fights for our friendship would, whenever the shoe was on the other foot, be reciprocated. After all, Ash would have sworn that to be the case. I can almost hear him. Are you kidding? How can you even question that? Painful fucking naivety. So I'll admit that this next bit might sound a smidge man-hating, but there's no need to single yourself out, love. I'm starting to detest everyone in this broad picture. So it's more nihilism than misandry, if you want to get finicky. But here it comes. The average man, unfortunately, is very easily controlled. If he knows where his next meal and his next blowjob are coming from, and both things come from you, his loyalty to everyone else in life just goes up in smoke. Meaning that if you are the female friend of a guy, expecting him to fight your corner, fight for you in a brand new sexual relationship, whew, dear Lord, prepare for a betrayal you will never see coming, nor ever quite get over. Because that new relationship, it's his sex supply, love. And you're not giving him that, are you? Perhaps it's misogyny buried deep in even the best of guys, but when it comes down to the wire, when it comes down to the fight for your friendship, I really don't think he sees you as an equal. Not equal to one of his guy friends. You may have been there, invited to every single guys' night for 16 years, every drinking or smoking session, until you genuinely started to believe that you were on even footing with all those male friends. That bros before hoes applied to you. Well, I'm going to put this fucking bluntly, because blunt is how it feels when it happens to you. Blunt force trauma. Love, you were just his emotional fleshlight. You were female methadone. Not a girlfriend, but an okay for now stand-in. If that girlfriend doesn't want you around, the sex might walk away. Loyalty to you now stands in direct contradiction with the desires of his dick. And spoiler alert, the dick always wins. Which brings us to the third element of our little equation, the girlfriend. From day one, this girl was playing chess. She wasn't bumbling through GTA, rambling through side quests and crashing into walls until death came clattering down to grab her, the only way I've ever played the game of life. And a girl like that is not going to tolerate a loose end, an unknown quantity, a perceived threat to the man she wants to own. She knew the best way to force a person out was to make it look like their own decision. And little by little, we all slipped into the preempted design of her flawlessly executed checkmate. Step 1. Make Ash wholly unavailable for socialising unless she was with him every second, always, right from the get-go. I had zero issue with hanging out with her too, now and then, but when you're old friends who've been through a lot of dark shit together, it's those one-on-one hangouts that are the glue holding you guys together. And most importantly, they're the only moments you can be fully open to truly check in and make sure you're both doing okay, which I think is fucking important when you're two friends who both have a lot of mental health issues, one of them who's just got out of an abusive relationship that lasted 8 years, and now they're in a new relationship far too quickly, and you just want to make sure they're okay and also talk about some of your own shit. Like, of course you want some one-on-one space for that, to my mind, but strike that out. Make it impossible. So I do just need to jump in here to clarify some bits that I unfortunately had to cut for length, because obviously the first thing I do need to say is that obviously friendship with exes is undoubtedly a complex and divisive issue. So I should probably clarify that Ash and I had been nothing more than platonic friends for 9 years at this point, including the fact we'd been on vacations together, just the two of us, sometimes while I was in relationships with other guys, vacations to Amsterdam where we were getting high every night, and usually we were sharing a bedroom, not a bed, just a bedroom to keep the costs low. And during all this time together, high off our faces, we had never in 9 years overstepped any friendship boundaries. So to my mind, that's about as tried and tested as two people come. We were solidly in the friend zone by this point. We were no threat to anyone, but I realise everyone's relationship experiences and background will vary hugely. So to return to all of this, the bigger backstory here is that Ash had been in a very toxic relationship for the last 8 years, which at the time we all knew did seem controlling, and it was no secret that this girl was very jealous, given our friendship had had to become this weird, sneaky secret, despite the fact we were literally just talking during these illicit hangouts. And then finally he came out to me and to a mutual male friend that this girl wasn't just controlling, things were actively abusive. We were the first two that he came to, and we helped him get away. Seemingly seconds later, he fell for a new girlfriend. And much as we all hoped for the best, things quickly became worrying again. The relationship was moving far too fast, just like the last time, And she again seemed jealous, unable to deal with seeing photos of nights out on Facebook that depicted Ash with his past partner, however brief their time together had been. And more than this, Ash's friendships, his career, everything was being intensely micromanaged. I didn't trust that, but back to the video. Meaning that no matter how private, how sensitive the conversation regarding whatever was going down in my life, or his, this brand new chick was damn well going to play fly on the wall to every word I exchanged with my best friend who'd known me half my life, who'd cleaned up my literal blood after antidepressants sent me off the deep end, who saw me through the darkest days of my ED, and who I'd seen through just as much crazy shit. And of course I didn't know how much of his history she knew and what I could say in front of her. But now all of that messy, deep, dark, intensely personal history had to be handed over like a great big government dossier, just as she very well knew. So step 2, cut out the invites. Bring round all the other dudes, all the other usual suspect, mutual friendship elements, the way it had been for 16 years. But leave me specifically, out in the cold, because I had no dick. And this was, by the way, just after I'd changed my name, come out as genderqueer if not trans, since I was still weighing up the idea of physically transitioning to male. That period when you're trying your best 24/7 to pass for male, because misgendering and dead naming is still a fucking gut punch. A reminder that you can never be who you should have been. That the world will never see you or understand you the way you truly are, and that, even if I did transition, my whole youth was behind me, and nothing on earth could buy back the boy youth I should have had, which was one of the reasons I didn't transition. All that pain and regret and frustration, it hits you like a bus collision with every misgendering slight, when you're raw and new to understanding you aren't cisgender. While I think it's pretty clear that these days, while my gender has not shifted one iota, I have long ceased trying to pass or fit in with an uncontrollable and frequently spiteful world. But back then, the little things still really, really mattered and still got to me, and they knew that. There is no way in hell that she didn't realise and utilise the extra sting of being segregated from the real boys, the cis boys, the ones with dicks, when the difference had never, ever mattered in 16 years before she showed up. Is this starting to fucking itch yet? And then, step 3, she fielded all contact with, I suspect it was everyone, but it was certainly me. And Ash's personality seemed to be disappearing before our eyes. There were things he loved doing, had always loved doing, and suddenly he wouldn't do them. And when you asked him why, he couldn't look you in the eye or give you a straight answer, just this sort of excuse that sounded alien. It didn't sound like his own words. And believe me, when you've known someone for 16 years, it is quite glaring when they're not speaking their own truth. So I could see these red flags, but unfortunately neither of us ever could deal with conflict. It just wasn't a part of our dynamic to yank each other up like, oi, what the fuck does that mean? Is this actually about the activity, or is it just that you're not allowed anywhere near us and for some reason you're obeying this shit? Why do you sound like a nervous robot programmed with someone else's lies right now? Oh, for fuck's sake. I wish I wasn't so Aries coded. I wish I knew softer ways to do and say things. Just a simple, this really doesn't seem like you, man. Are you actually okay? Or is the same shit, you know what I mean, happening all over again? Look, sit down, dude. Take your time. Just tell us what's actually going on. And that's what I should have said. I regret like hell not speaking up right then and there, and even in the final words we ever spoke to each other, which probably should have been something like, I don't know what's in your head right now, and maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am, but I can see you disappearing for a second time, and I know there's nothing I can do or say. So just know that despite how this has gone down between you and me, please know that 1,000 late night stoned GTA marathons and 3 a.m. bullshit sessions won't ever be forgotten. So if it ever comes down to it, you fucking have an escape hatch. And to be honest, our last words, they were peaceful, amicable like that, but less honest by far. And of course, things change horribly over the years. Mistakes get made and fresh regrets, plenty of them, are brewed, and we'll get to all of that later in the video. But to return to the point, the red flags were flying and he was disappearing. But both our conflict-avoidant asses, I feel, were outmatched, outplayed in this game of chess I found myself trapped in. That's just how I see it. What else can I say? And I thought, oh shit, playing from the exact same playbook as Nia, the girl Ash, by his own admittance, had his brain negatively rewired by for 8 long years. And just like with Nia, how do you tell your friend you're worried that you knew this would fucking happen when he tossed himself, rebounding hard, directly back into dating with no time to rebalance or heal? But you can't say it, can you? She'd as good as moved in by week 2 or 3, and your every communication is fielded by that suspected abuser. There was no avenue of sane communication, let alone the freedom to hang out, until, little by little, my resentment grew from her to him too. All those fucking fights with my boyfriends that I'd bludgeoned my way through in his name, and now he wouldn't do a single solitary thing to reciprocate or protect our friendship. Although I do need to add that my patience on the matter didn't just spontaneously combust. It had unfortunately stretched to breaking point over the 8 years he was with Nia, when our friendship became this weird, frustrating secret, until, of course, he came clean about how scary and messed up the relationship had become, and I finally got it. But I also thought that after almost a decade of being knotted in illogical hamstrings, I'd finally got my best friend and favourite human back. And I was over the fucking moon, dude. I was also convinced he'd do anything to avoid experiencing any element of that restrictive, painful relationship ever again. But now here we were. It felt like we were waltzing unstoppably down the same path of doom, and his girlfriend was fielding every text and call, and God knows whether he was putting up any resistance to that. But at this point, the here we go again frustration and the knowledge it had taken him 8 gutting years to see sense the last time, I just had nothing left to give. You know, maybe I'm completely wrong here. Maybe that is just what grown-up relationship happiness looks like. But dude, it was such a sharp fade out from who he'd ever been to disappearing behind these screened calls and micromanaged changes to every aspect of daily life. And all I, for myself, could see was someone so lost in the love-bombing stage of a controlling relationship. It felt like dealing with an addict. And maybe that's the epitome of hypocrisy coming from me. But I could just no longer be the person who stays silent and waits and fake smiles and pretends there isn't a galumphing grey elephant in the room. Did the situation require more sensitivity and patience? Yes, and I am so sorry I couldn't give him that. But could I be the one to do it anymore? Unequivocally, no. We were just past all boundaries of sanity and patience for me, and our friendship was a thing irrevocably broken. Just like, I have to say, my trust in other people to this day. And with that depressing as fuck interlude said, back to the video. And at this point, I did the utterly obvious thing that she knew full fucking well would happen if she just kept prodding. I bitched and whined in a public place, on the Facebook post of a mutual to be precise. I was fairly vague, and I never intended her to see it, but checkmate. I'd managed to make myself look like the one rejecting them in the most psycho-bitchy way, and after one final phone conversation where I wish I'd been blunter, got it all off my chest and done everything I could to tear the scales from his eyes, but as ever, naivety and British politeness won out, and I fucking didn't. Ash and I parted ways. 2 years later, a very close mutual friend died suddenly. I texted Ash the news. He replied he got it, but didn't bother showing his face at that friend's memorial, the closest thing to a funeral we ever got. If someone else who meant that much to you could suddenly just die with no respects marked after all the good times and the weird times and the unaliving rescue missions, it's hard to find any respect left after that. But young and stupid as I was, I did used to hope for a reconciliation. These days, I am depressingly aware every single passion, stance and interest the Ash I knew held dear has been flattened and left to rust in the rain. What still walks about on the topsoil, that's a stranger, an unknown person, best left as memories. All of which brings us to the big old slice of lime draped seductively over the endlessly brought up topic of where Ash went and why we parted ways. So, section 2. Am I lonely without him? I mean, everyone wants to find their person, don't they? I think most of us even believe we'll find our person, especially when we were already living with one at age 16. The absolute last thing I thought when I was young I'd ever be was the left on the shelf 40-year-old with no answer to +1 invitations, but in truth, it is just simple mathematics. I'm grey sexual, physically attracted to almost no one. Also, I find the vast majority of human beings draining or stressful to be around. The notion, therefore, that I would ever find physical attraction and a personality I bounce off in the same body, it was always going to be a lottery-winning statistic. So here's the thing. I fought so hard for Ash for all those years because, for me, he really was one of a kind. But Ash was never grey sexual, and he got on with everyone. You could have chucked him in a well, dude, with nothing but a catfish sucking on pebbles, and he would still find his fucking soulmate. So on the plus side of flying solo, you do become the most authentic version of yourself. You discover what you're really about with no one leaning in, no one prodding you in this direction or that direction, and you make shit work from that. I doubt I'd be a writer if I'd stayed with any one of my major exes. And you really can love being single for quite a while. 7 years single genuinely is a breeze. Self-discovery, creativity, plumbing your own inner depths and finding them nearly bottomless. Who needs someone else when there's so much inside you? It's a fucking great honeymoon, but I'm sorry to say, like all things, it will end. And then the single life will wear you the fuck down. You can't go anywhere unless you have the physical, mental and spiritual energy to get yourself there and back solo and carry the full weight in every conversation you engage in, let alone travelling abroad, a vulnerable lone female with anxiety, autism and a terrible sense of direction. No, most of the world I will just never see. My friends are great, truly. All new friendships entirely now with sober people. And thank God I have the ED Forum girlies, who we've all shared the darkest depths of our lives since 2002. But there is eternally a deeper itch for connection that is never ever scratched. When you used to have someone with 16 years of tight-knit history, deeper conversations that blur out of the 4 a.m. depths of a smoke-fogged room, and setting your individual worlds to increasingly demented rites, that's just autism. Even on the goth scene, amongst fellow oddballs, you're still the lone square peg, and I think this is a combination of factors. There's the autism, there's the ADHD, but there's also the grey sexuality. And the fact that I don't understand so much about human interaction because I am not driven by lust and attraction. I don't understand throwing yourself into internet research and cyber stalking of people who intrigue you, because I am not intrigued by people in that way. For instance, one of the reasons for wanting to make this video is to try and demystify and deglamorize the way people seem to have latched on to Ash, because that is something I vastly regret and had no idea would happen, because I have never encountered like someone in film, in book, in anything, and then deep dived and wanted to find out who they are and blah, 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 blah. Didn't occur to me that that would ever happen, because it's not how my brain works. The thing with Millennium Gothic is that it was very much written through my perspective as a teenager in love with this guy. And it's not so much about the guy and who he was specifically, it's about how he made you feel and your personal type and your personal attraction. And that's not going to transfer to most people. You know, to most people, you look at the person that someone is in love with and you don't see it. You think, what is special about this person? You don't see it. It's individual. And that is the case with Ash, and that is the case with everyone in this book. They are just people. And writing, I think, is difficult because you can envisage whatever you want to envisage, even if that's not how the author intended it at all. So I do think this deglamorization of Ash needs doing, because I don't encourage and I don't support the deep diving of this person who is just a person who, particularly, you know, younger people. This is a mid-40s dude. So I'd just like to add in here a giant apology to everyone in my past who's ever found themselves beneath a weird internet spotlight solely because some random asshole they used to know has unfortunately found the only living they seem able to make in this life has placed them in the public eye, which it seems can see around corners into places you never expected. And in all my autistic social disability, I could not foresee just how thick the veil of anonymity should have been. And that is, to this day, one of my biggest regrets in life. So yeah, this is, and not for the first time, a plea to remember that. This going out to you guys now. When a book isn't fiction, it literally involves souls, not figments of the imagination. Think how deeply protective you feel towards your favourite literary characters who are just figments whenever they meet with online criticism. But then imagine this character is someone you lived with for years, a friend, an ex, maybe even your mom. And you, unfortunately, are an oversharing, motor mouth, ADHD autistic. One day you have this chat about some past escapades you think are funny or weird or poignant, forgetting that you aren't just talking to the cool, friendly internet humans you've shot the shit with over the years. The walls have other ears, and some of them are malicious, and some of them, and these can be the most dangerous, whose only crime is being just as autistic as you are, just as unable to foresee consequence, and before you know it, can all never be stuffed back into its box. Anonymity cannot be placed retroactively, and the groaningly ironic tragedy of all this is that much of the appeal of that book, Millennium Gothic, was its naive openness, that it threw the doors wide to the 90s and early 2000s and to the person I was at that time, unfortunately to the people who surrounded me also. And it was loud and messy in all its broken innocence, a child in red lipstick who thinks they know it all, and no gate was barred, but everything has to have its edge, its fucking boundary fence, and that openness cannot extend to the lives of strangers. And I've hesitated for over a week in uploading this video at all, dude. Like, does it just reignite the curiosity? Is a few years dust the best gift I can now give to the people in my past? I don't know. Ultimately, though, it seems like no dust is settling over the curiosity, so I felt I had to speak in an attempt to put things to bed and to make a deal with the world to respectfully request that Ash, along with every other anonymized name in my past, get to sleep in the rearview mirror in exchange for, well, many things ultimately, but perhaps the only one I can really bargain here is the peace of mind to move on to finally giving you all those fictional vampires that I've been harping on about since the dawn of my YouTube existence. New characters with lives bigger and weirder and bloodier and so much more interesting than the mundane world of my past and of the people there who are just people, you know, just plodding along with their lives and trying not to get whipped into chaoses that I should have cloaked them in better anonymity, and I can't do anything about that now, and I fucking hate that. So thank you if you made it this far. Back we go to my admittedly slightly PMS-tinged grumbling on about present-day life. And I hadn't even realised this till right now, but I always thought hitting 30 had been my weirdly random curse, the point everything fell apart, from the alcoholism hell to all the demented, barely survivable bullshit of the past 5 years. But the truth is, that timeline is exactly when I lost Ash as a friend. They do say the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety, it's connection. With a friend at their side, humans are generally pretty unsinkable. Things can get rough and you can get so down, but a night getting drunk or stoned with a close mate is the best mental health medicine going. But without it, without that depth and regularity of in-the-flesh connection, you're kind of fucked. There's going to be things that are good in your life, YouTube writing, but the connection thing is it's pretty vital. Humans, even grey sexual ones, we're pretty gregarious herd animals. And yeah, you get to this place where there's really no point to anything. There's nothing to fondly look back on, and there's nothing good to look forward to. But on the bright side, compared to the sheer number of my friends who right at this very second are being mangled over the hot coals of the man they put first in everything, the man they wrecked their bodies and exhausted their very souls giving children to, only to be repaid at 40-something with a secretary fucking cliche of a male midlife crisis, then a brutal divorce. Fuck me. Compared to that, I got off light. So there you go. You have your answer. Ash and I parted ways because I lost a game of chess that I didn't know I was playing, and that I was never neurologically equipped to play. And that, my internet amigos, is a pretty stark illustration of what completely unreliable narrators we all are about our own lives. 4 years since I wrote Millennium Gothic, and now the same scenes are painted in such utterly different colours. Your whole perspective shifts through time's murky lens. Heroes become villains, villains become heroes, and the centre of your universe becomes just another spectre shrinking away in the rearview mirror. But, like I said, all I can give you is my own take. Everyone is the villain of someone's story. Even you, I dare say. If you fancy reading the book after that, exit note about addiction and social media infamy, death wishes and furious blowouts with mental health care providers, all those details are in the box below. Finally, thanks for being a segment of the one part of my life that isn't a flaming dumpster fire. I appreciate you more than I can possibly say. Thank you for being so completely wonderful and keeping at least one element of my life on some kind of track. Thank you. May the rest of your night go well. Huge love, sympathy and understanding to all the other exhausted singletons and people going through divorces out there. And with all of that said, I'm going to shut up because this is like obscenely long, I think, at this point. So thanks for listening. Toodly pip, over and out. Bye-bye.